So let's go around the gallery, please, with quick introductions of name and company name, and then we'll move on from there. So Kate, please, and then Joe.
I'll start myself. Okay. Hi. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon or good morning. I see we have someone from United States tuning in. So, or good afternoon if you are the other side of the world. My name is Kate. I am the head of ambassador of CoLive. CoLive is the global non-profit co-living association, but I'm also personally involved in the co-living industry itself, in more the real estate, not just the association, and strongly believe is going to be a big part in our future.
Thanks, Kate. Joe and then Tonya, please.
Hi, everyone. Joe Webb from Lamington Group. I'm the sales manager and run about 6 brands under the umbrella at the moment. Also moving into the co-working, co-living space as well. So really excited to chat about lots of changes that are coming in, both from our side and into the industry.
Thanks, Joe. Tonya, and then we'll do ladies before gentlemen. We're going to skip you, Tonya, and then Cherry.
Thank you. Good morning. Hi, I'm Tonya Jacobson. I'm formerly of Bridge Street in the United States, which recently has closed its U.S. operations, but I'm focused on my full-time real estate practice and destination consulting services as Next Adventure Home Solutions at this time.
Thanks,
Hi, everyone.
Cherry, and then Irene.
Yeah, great. Hi, everyone. My name is Cherry Wang, and I'm the country manager of UK and Ireland for HomeLike. HomeLike specializes, so we're an online marketplace specializing in furnished apartments for corporate travelers, and our minimum length of stay is 30 nights.
Hi everyone, this is Irina Keane. I'm Regional Director of Account Management for National Corporate Housing, and I'm responsible for the EMEA region.
Thank you. Michelle, and then Emma, please.
Hi everyone, I'm Michelle Dan with Churchill Living, and I am a Director of Business Development. I've been with the company for 12 years and been in the industry almost 20.
Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Emma Towledine. I'm from the Fellows House, a new hotel that's opening by Curio Collection in Cambridge. And like Michelle, I've been in the industry for over 20 years, so just as I came out the womb.
Declan, over to you.
Hi everybody, my name is Declan Fitzhenry. I am Director and co-founder of Inclusive, as well as being here representing the City Stay Group. Inclusive is a new mid-term rental platform that we have recently launched, focusing on those days from 90 days onwards.
Thanks, Declan. So yeah, this afternoon, this morning, we'll be talking about the changes in serviced accommodation models. I'd like to run quickly through a few bullet points of what's happened in hotel serviced accommodation over the years, just to get a tiny bit of perspective. Branding was very early in the sorry, I've got a bit of feedback here. Branding was very prevalent really early on in the hotel sector. Peninsula, Kempinski, Whitbread, Taj were very early in launching their brands. Hilton 1919, Marriott 1927. For our particular sector, actually it's everybody on mute. I'm not sure whether I'm getting feedback. Thanks. In our particular sector, Oakwood 1960 was probably the watershed for the corporate housing service department sector. Globe, Cheval, 1981, 1982. Embassy Suites, hotel/suite brand, launched 1983. Ascot, 1984. I won't continue particularly with any more of those years, or not some of them. 1995, the sector in the UK moved from London-centric really to national with the launch of Room Space. Same year, VRBO came along and started pushing the sort of vacation rental side of things into the sector. That was, of course, as well when the internet pretty much started, certainly in the UK. Mind you, it's global, isn't it? 1996, Bridge Street. 1998, Frasers. 1999, National Corporate Housing, Synergy, Marriott, Executive. One of the big things to happen, of course, was the disruption that came around 2008. Seems so long ago that it happened, but it was only 2008. Airbnb was launched and moved into this whole thing, the question of what the millennials will be wanting. And 2017, Section 24 of the Finance Act, where a lot of people moved from buy-to-let into R2SA, rent to serviced accommodation, and that property strategy. So those are the general things happening out there. Before I move over to the panelists, I would like to say thank you, obviously, once again for the viewers, the live viewers and recording of the recording. Thank you also to Integrum PMS and Quality in Tourism for sponsoring the Blue Room. So yeah, I don't know whether we go around the gallery in a way, really, in an orderly fashion. And maybe I could ask you to start, Kate. I mean, your product is co-living. It seems to be, for me, it was one of the models that was destined to fail with COVID. It's actually the opposite of happened. So over to you, really.
Sorry, could you repeat, because I didn't catch your last comment?
Okay. Yeah, sorry. So with co-living, because you being based in that side of the sector, it's one of the major changes, really, I think, in the past 3 years or so, maybe, in the overall serviced accommodation sector. Why would you say that co-living has survived COVID so well? I mean, obviously we're human beings. We all like that contact, and so what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are many reasons, but I'm just going to list a couple of them. The first one is that co-living is very different than just, let's say, traditional shared accommodation, because the operators of co-living places are very aware of the onboarding of the customers. I don't like to call them tenants, customers or members, of people that come and live in your property and in your co-living space. It's very important that they are very similar. That doesn't mean they all come from the same industry or they do the same job, but very, very similar oriented. And that's because they do tend to do a lot of things together. They do tend to share a lot within the community together. And I think that the rise of co-living after COVID and during COVID actually is down to this, is down to the fact that many people have realized that they do not want to have another or pass, let's say, another time like they just did in this past few months on their own in a small maybe or large property, but just on their own with no connection, if not through the same thing that we are doing today, so like virtual. But also, they don't want to be somewhere sharing a property with just random people that they never had the possibility to connect with before. And so they want to find a good balance of both. And I think co-living does exactly that. And co-living operators do exactly that. They provide you with temporary or longer term accommodation. That really depends on the operator and on the target. But also, they really curate the community. And before you go there, you know who lives there, who they are, what they do, you know. You can see what kind of activities they do with their communities and how the community interacts. And you can really understand if it is for you or not. And I really think these are two of the main reasons why, you know, co-living has gone and has sailed through COVID.
Right. Well, thank you. Do you see co-living as being something that will be governed by big brands in the future, or will it be more like the smaller, coming from the HMO side?
It's a mix of both. I mean, if you have a look at the US market and some of the big players that are already in UK and also in Germany. So I'm talking about Common, if anyone knows these brands, Common, Quoters, Oli, The Collective. They've already started. We are talking about properties which are, you know, 250 plus units You know, it's you're going very far from the, you know, the smaller-ish, you know, even sui generis HMO with like 6 to 8 to 10 people. But I think there's going to be an opening to both. There's going to be definitely an opening to both. There's going to be a lot of people that will look a smaller solution, but still with the flexibility that most of the co-living operators give. And some of them that will be happy to be part of a very, very big, maybe less personal co-living environment.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, the big players will definitely come in. There's a lot of platforms that are being built, a lot of prop tech into it, and I think in the next 3 to 5 years we'll see a massive rise of that.
Interesting. Thank you. Joe, you mentioned that Lamington are also. Is there not a part of the sector that you're not going to be in? I mean, so. But you're going to be also involved in co-living, is that right?
Yeah.
Joe?
So we've kind of always done it. Oh, yeah. Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, can. So yeah, the co-living side, and also tell us please all about the other things that you're doing at Lamington and Room 2.
Yeah, of course. So back to the beginning, Richard, you missed us out. We were 1967.
Oh, really? Oh,
when
Lamington,
Lamington
yeah.
Group was,
Okay,
was popped together.
Good.
Yeah. So we've changed a lot since then, though. We started out as a property development company. So we were buying the townhouses that you know and love of Lamington Apartments in Hammersmith, but we were kind of flipping them into the buy to rent. And then that naturally kind of went into short lets after that. And that's what we know as Lamington Apartments today. So we still have Lamington lettings, we still do the long lets, but we've got the short lets under Lamington Apartments. And then, yeah, it was only a few years ago that things started to really ramp up when Robert and Stuart took over the business. And then we kind of moved into the apart hotel / hometels sector. So that is, you know, our Room 2s. So that's Room 2 Hammersmith, Room 2 Southampton at the moment, but we are branching out. Chiswick is due July 2021. It's exciting. Then we've got Fulham, Manchester, Liverpool, Belfast, and a few others on the cards. And then from like within the Room 2 portfolio is where the co-living bit comes in. So we've always offered what we call lifestyle lets. So that is you get a studio apartment, all your bills are included. You get use of all the facilities on site, like the gym and discounts in the bar and restaurants on site. And it is just more of a community feel. We have ramped that up since COVID, and we've actually found that we are picking up a lot of students that no longer want to be in halls because they seem rife with COVID. And kind of different markets like that. So that's where we've kind of changed and adapted our product offering to suit the market that's out there at the moment. A lot of construction workers like it as well because they don't have to pack all this stuff up and kind of move in and out as well. So yeah, so the co-living and so on the co-working side, we are just about to open next week, fingers crossed, our first co-working space, which is Mission Works in Hammersmith. That again has been a bit of a pivot due to COVID, but you know, the only constant in business is change. So you have to be kind of ready to pivot and change kind of directions and where you're off to, depending on clients, markets, economics, pandemics, things like that. So yeah, so we've changed that into, it was just going to be a refurb and sold to one company for a 5-year deal to be their office, but now we switched it into co-working. And actually we found it has been quite popular with bringing bookings into Lamington Apartments because they get to use the space. So people coming over who are relocating or, you know, kind of working here for a month, instead of just working from the apartment, they have use of that space from next week as well. So it just gives us that little extra USP on the standard traditional serviced apartment side as well.
Thank you.
Then as you say, we're kind of hitting all markets at the moment. We've got a new brand, which is we're actually rebranding. So we are calling it Room 2 Light at the moment, but it's to hit the budget hotel sector. They are between 75 and 200 key city centre locations. We've got our eye on about 15 at the moment. but they are going to be kind of within the budget market kind of stay arena, but they are still going to be studios. So they will be very, very design-led, customer-focused buildings and studios, but that will just be on that cheaper side.
Okay, all right.
So, yeah, we're looking to get into that.
Yeah, good stuff. So thanks, Joe. The departing in a little bit away from the co-living, and Declan, you've would you like to explain a little bit about inclusive? And so in terms of going back to the actual question or the theme of the broadcast, changes in the service department sector, I think we've identified then, so co-living, co-working, and kind of there, interestingly, studios you mentioned there, Joe, and so that's another area. And but you've just launched something, Declan, that is also different, but in terms of length of stay. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right, Richard. Basically, a couple of years ago at City Stay here in Cambridge, we were looking at ways that we should be diversifying, because as Joe was mentioning, you need to be adaptable in business, because that's, I think, ultimately the only way that you're going to be able to survive, especially in this market that we're in right now. And so we've been piloting this scheme for a couple of years under the Checked In brand, whereby we were offering people accommodation from a minimum of 12 weeks onwards. Slightly different to our traditional service apartment model, in that we were taking out some of those services, the housekeeping services, the wraparound, additional services, and those kind of things, to be able to offer the product at a more approachable rate. And what we were finding is that the trend has been towards those longer stays, and actually people didn't necessarily have the budget for 3, 4, 5, 6 months in a fully serviced apartment, yet they weren't prepared to go into that private rental market. They didn't want the hassle of setting up all their bills and going away and dealing with several different channels to get themselves somewhere to live. Modern consumers, we are all them. We want everything immediately. It's that trend towards instant gratification. And I think that's happening now with the way that people consume property as well. They want to be able to walk into a place and it be ready to live in immediately. The world is a smaller place than it was 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, and people are so much more happy to move around that. And therefore they need a place when they turn up in a location that they can just crack on straight away with. So with that in mind, we were looking at how can we get this out across, to begin with, at least the UK and Ireland, and that's how we launched the Inclusive platform. And we've been onboarding partners, traditional service apartment providers as partners, who are looking for a secondary revenue stream, looking for a more aggressive portfolio growth strategy, and maybe looking to diversify themselves and add more brands under their umbrellas, just as Joe was alluding to, and what we've been doing here at the City Stay Group. So, I mean, we've only been live for a week, and already we've actually onboarded a couple of national providers. That's happened this week, and they'll be going live on the platform. But I would absolutely encourage anybody who is noticing that trend towards those longer stays to jump on inclusive.co.uk and have a look at how we can actually help you take advantage of that and diversify. And I think what Kate mentioned in terms of that co-living, co-working trend is all part of that ongoing adaptation of this industry, and hopefully we're providing the platform via Inclusive for people to be able to take advantage of that. Right,
thanks Declan. Yeah, in fact, so far it seems, so we did a survey on Saba Wine Time last week. What changes are anticipated over the next 18 months, just very briefly. Smart technology, 56%, so an increase in smart technology, 56% thought that was would be seen. Likewise, exactly the same, 56% were seeing longer stays, and 47% an increase on areas where you can work. So it's kind of consistent so far, really, with what we polled last week.
Richard, just sorry to just
Emma,
jump
please,
in here. Sorry, Richard, can I just jump back in? There's a comment here from Sabrina Carparelli about, it's a question for co-live about average length of stay. I know that I'm not from co-live, but I just wanted to say that from a checked-in point of view, so what we've been doing here in Cambridge, the average length of stay has been 20 weeks. So it's, you know, it's in that 4.5, 5 month length of stay category. So it's quite long.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Declan. Thank you. Emma, so obviously we know each other for many years from the service department sector. Hilton, Securio by Hilton, that's not service departments necessarily, is it? Or are there, what's the, you know, the model with
What's it all about?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure. So it's quite interesting. The topic today is regarding the changes in accommodation. And you alluded to in your introductions how introduction of large brands such as Marriott, you didn't mention IHG with Staybridge Suites, and then there's obviously Hilton themselves. So their traditional kind of extended stay brand would be the Homewood Suites. However, for me in Cambridge with our new hotel, what we've actually noticed is we're opening under the Curio brand. So the changes that are happening with large, maybe international hotel chains is they're diversifying and coming away from what they may traditionally have classified their extended stay brands. So as I said, the Residence Inns for Marriott, the Staybridge Suites with IHG. And for the Curio brand, we're traditionally a typical hotel, but because of the being a lifestyle kind of like product within Hilton, it's given our owners and people like myself the flexibility to make a choice as to how the room compositions all come together. So actually we've made the decision to make them apartments, so therefore can give all of the benefits of a Hilton and all its benefits, its reward members, etc., but yet encompass a short stay perspective in an apartment, be it studios, one bedrooms, or even duplexes. But also give that flexibility, as Declan alluded to. We probably won't be going down the 4 or 5 month stay in the Curio. However, we are looking to capitalise maybe on that shorter, 2 or 3, maybe even 4 week kind of like stay in Cambridge.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, exactly.
Really mixing it up.
Michelle, so you've heard from a number of these Brits on what's happening over here. Churchill Living and founded. How do you know how long ago that was founded? I'm putting you on the spot here.
We are actually a furniture and housewares provider as well as a service department provider. So the furniture and housewares began before our service department segment. Been around for, I want to say close to 40 years. But wow. Going back to even what Declan said, that turnkey solution for, that's extremely important. Our minimum stay is only 3 nights nationwide here in the US, within our core inventory locations. But obviously, with COVID and everything that's going on, the business traveler has died down quite a bit. So we're,
relocation. Relocation.
Experiencing the same.
I guess that relocation is still a fairly.
Can't hear you.
You can't hear me. Can you hear me?
No, you kept.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Thank you.
Yes, I can.
So relocation is still quite a healthy market, I guess, for Churchill.
Well, we've tapered down quite a bit as well as other providers, knowing that the needs aren't the supply and demand. It's not, as needed right now, but we're also, staying strong within the industry. So I think we're all feeling a little pain in the service department industry at the current moment. Everybody in the hospitality industry. I mean, the Hiltons, the Marriotts of the world as well.
Thank you.
And the co-living, well, back to, even the co-living, we've, you make changes and you adapt and you become innovative and creative. So our office space, the desks have to be a little more comfortable. You have to make the space a little bit better for, the guest who's staying with you. You have to listen to their needs and wants and, just adapt and go along with it as well.
So, Sherry, if I could turn to you, please, because as on the agency side, then you have yourself and Irina and probably Tanya as well have some oversight really regarding what's happening, because we can all get a little bit into our own brands. But from your perspective, the service department sector, I know that HomeLike was launched as a minimum stay 1 month. Declan's moving it to 3 months now, I think. So you know, you are very much into that area. What changes have you noticed? Have you noticed any changes in particular with regards to where the clients are preferring to go? What models they?
So I think one of the biggest trends that we have seen is definitely diversification, and it's diverse. Like, we're seeing short-term players going into the mid to long-term stays. A lot of them, you know, especially during COVID, it was really spurred by COVID, that you know, instead of kind of doing the normal kind of 5 to 7 day or even kind of 2 to 3 day kind of lets, they went into kind of 6 month or 12 month lets, and I think that's really shored up their occupancy. So some of our suppliers are on 95 to 100% occupancy because they've just made that pivotal shift, which is fantastic. In terms of our average length of stay on our platform, it still remains. So in the UK, it's still around 3 months. But what we noticed is that in markets like Germany and Spain, we saw an increase in the length of stay to around 100, 110 days, just because a lot of tenants were also trying to take advantage of the cheaper pricing as well. And what you're also seeing from a diversification point of view is that from the real estate investment side, people are repurposing assets, so repurposing commercial assets to residential, or they're shifting to kind of mixed use real estate projects. And I think also in the Airbnb IPO, they mentioned that the total addressable market for the long-term stay segment is roughly around 210 billion, of which 162 million, so around 80%, sits within the classic residential segment, and the remaining 48 million, so the remainder 20% within the serviced accommodation segment. And I think the trend there will be that this market, so this total addressable market, will only grow because we're also seeing increased flexibility demanded by kind of travelers as well. So suppliers have had to adopt into kind of offering more flexible cancellations, and also because people have greater flexibility when it comes to working now. So co-living is definitely the co-living sector is definitely riding some of the benefits of that kind of trend. I mean, the remote working trend is not new, but it's only been accelerated by COVID. And last but not least, we're just seeing like digitization is a massive trend over the kind of past few years, and especially going forward, especially in the real estate and prop tech market. So especially in the area where we operate, the kind of the mid to long term segment, it's primarily been offline. And what we're seeing is a fundamental shift towards people investing heavily and digitizing within that space, whether it's better data transparency, instant bookings, and virtual viewings as well. And I think you're also seeing a shift in customer behavior, as Declan mentioned, that, you know, like on a customer behavior point of view, you're also seeing increased digitization. They want more, they demand more as well.
Right. Interesting. Thank you. Irina, if I could turn to you, please. So you have a similar oversight on from National Corporate Housing on the market. What changes are you seeing? Because you've got a sort of a transatlantic perspective as well, really, haven't you?
Definitely. Yeah, I'm on a similar wavelength to Declan. We've seen a huge increase in length of stay. So obviously, a lot of companies are still restricting regular transient business, your 2-3 days accommodation, but they have started to allow for the longer term travel. So we're seeing a lot of the longer term assignments, the relocation moves, your 6-month stays, your 1-year stays, which, is great business, I suppose, but it's definitely a change. But the other thing I wanted to bring up is that I've seen a much bigger focus on service and the human element of housing. So obviously technology is always going to be important, and it's more and more important as the day goes on. But and we are hospitality professionals, but I've actually found that service is becoming more of a focus than it ever was. So guests need to be handheld a lot more than they were before. Every single request that we see come in has a special request, whether it's having a desk in the apartment or, anything. And it's not location or being close to the office. That's not important because obviously people work from home, but there's a lot more worry when it comes to travel and preparing for travel. So obviously cleanliness is important, planning for quarantine. So a lot of the requests we've seen have wanted grocery packs, some sort of quarantine preparation pack that, can see them through the first couple of weeks before they can go out to the shops and buy things themselves. So there's been some diversification in the range of services we're offering, and also they want to be guided. So obviously we've got our destination services division in the US, so it's been really helpful because we've been able to partner with them as well and guide our partners, our clients, our guests in regards to what is needed in a certain country. Different countries have different quarantine rules, they have different regulations, registration, things like that. So that sort of mix with destination services has been really, really important as well in being able to offer that service to guests. So they're definitely a lot more reliant on us as service people.
That's really interesting. Yeah. So it's also where the agencies kind of coming. Oh, they've always been there, but always coming into their own even more because of offering that service in response to the concern and the guidance and what have you. Yeah, very interesting. Thank you. Tanya, over to you, please, if you'd like to mention maybe perhaps your new activity and your perspective on what's.
Sure. Well, thank you. I think the comments today, and I always learn so much with the opportunity to hear the panelists on the Blue Room. So thank you, Richard. I thought it was very telling of what I've observed in the distinct position at this point, to really spend some time really examining what I'm seeing in the industry. And here in the States in particular, we've definitely seen a divergence from the brick and mortar owned and operated to more agency models, maybe what would be described as a more asset light type of a scenario to allow companies to be more nimble and agile, especially now during COVID. And what I thought was very interesting from some of the comments that I heard, and first starting with Irina's and reminding us that the customer experience truly is the key differentiator, is that even pre-COVID, we were seeing executives in travel saying, some 73% of them, that the customer experience was going to be what drove their retention and their revenues through retention over time, and also not only just for the customer, but improving the employee engagement. And I think that's important too, especially now where we are asking so much more of the employees in organizations to serve those travelers, whether it is for the 3-day stay or the 3 or 6 month stay, and asking them to do so much more with a little bit less. We're really asking people to wear many hats in some instances. So focusing on that customer experience and making sure that it's positive from a 360 perspective, I think continues to be important. But moreover, I think where we're seeing folks moving to the agency model as well, we're kind of seeing a capability to have the best of both worlds, where there are larger operators or entities like our friends at Hilton who have access to big data, for example, to all of their dynamic data stores, they have the capability to sort of slice and dice and look at all of the information relative to the client or the customer that helps them identify how they can customize the experience for that traveler. And I think that's while that's helpful, there's still this very huge monolithic organization, and they benefit from the agency relationships in their supply chain, who are able to drill down to more of the micro-segmented experiences like those of the co-live and inclusives and Lamington and so forth. Because at the forefront, those players are going to have the capability to look at information from the front lines from a very unique customer's perspective, like Kate's comments, and those that you see reflected all the time is that what's suitable for one is not necessarily suitable for the other. So how do we identify the traveler who's going to be most attracted to a co-live or inclusive environment and market and support them differently than we might for Curio in Hilton. So I think we're just going to see so many more new and exciting partnerships out of the innovation and the demand for creating these micro segments. And I think I've read at least that the airline industries have started to do this fairly successfully. So having them look at not just the demographics, the ethnographics of their travelers and subscribers, but really look at listening to their surveys, their feedback, their preferences, and then that fourth dimension being the predictive indicators that tell them what to anticipate going forward. And all of this meshed together, I think, is going to create quite a robust travel experience for any customer. Coming out of COVID, I think we're having us have this opportunity to sort of take a minute and really look at our industry is going to build experiences that are so much more rich than what we started with pre-COVID. And I think also, I would just say that taking that minute too, where I'm seeing people taking time to think about things like sustainability, which is much more feasible in the smaller niche operations than some of the larger, and diversity and inclusion. I think these are going to continue to be topics that, while we're very prevalent and important previously, have really gotten a lot of attention during this COVID era, where we've had a chance to really think about what we want to make the industry. And it's going to carry forward across the lines, whether it's agency or the larger hotel operators.
Thank you, Tanya. It's as you say. I mean, so there is so much that's happening out there, isn't there? And then the channels to fulfill those requirements, and whether I think people are also. I've had an experience recently where a relocation client, they came first of all through a vacation rental portal, and then ended up coming through the Relo agent direct. They're sourcing the properties using some of those platforms out there, but then perhaps even turning to perhaps the service that Irina was mentioning of those relocation companies and booking agents in order to eventually be placed. What we'll do now is I'll play a couple of videos the sponsor video, and I'll play a video, an appeal for somebody that an old friend. And then we'll come back and we'll talk a little bit more about some of those comments. Hopefully this video will work. I won't see a thing. Right, hopefully that did play, and we're moving on to the second video. Okay, and I think we're back in the room now. Can everybody hear me? Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Okay. If I could encourage viewers, please, to post questions in the comments. I'm going to go and to one question which was up there already. But can I throw it? It must have been such a long time ago that you said anything, Kate and Joe. So, does anybody want to make any further comments though regarding what we've been talking about there? I think what I saw a very Deluxe Suites, where she mentioned budget as being important as we're coming out of the crisis. People will be more cost conscious. So we've got the service, the concern that our clients are showing, and the guidance that's required. We will be returning with great momentum, I think, to sustainability. We've got diversity as well as an issue that has become increasingly important, I think, and women-owned businesses as well is something which is getting a lot more attention than it has been in the past. We've talked about the models, the co-living, the co-working, the longer stay. But would anybody like to sort of pitch in really with any comments on what we've discussed so far whilst I find that question?
You going, Emma? I'm going. I just quickly wanted to reply actually to Sabrina. I don't know if you're Italian as well. Your name sounds like mine, Sabrina Carparelli. I don't know. So I know Declan already tapped into that, but I couldn't find a way of typing my reply, so I'm just going to tell you. I think the demographic and average length of stay, it really changes from co-living to co-living, from different type of co-living, and also where they are. So in cities, if you're talking about UK, again, it really depends if you're talking about London and surrounding area or more rural. So in the more rural, they tend to stay a little bit longer, and the demographic tend to stay a little bit older. While in London, I think the demographic is roughly between 23 to 37-ish, and the medium stay is between 6 to 9 months. Then if you're talking about certain co-living spaces that are targeting just the digital nomads, so you're talking about, the bracket of age opens up actually between 22 and 45. So you're talking about a more extended bracket, and you're talking about 30 days to 90 days maximum. It also depends on the visa. Some of the countries allow you to stay more, some of the countries don't. But again, the great thing about this type of co-living, it really is the flexibility of having a 30 days stay. And a lot of time, it's not as more expensive as it would be if you would rent, for example, from an Airbnb or a serviced accommodation provider. So it's a good combination of both. Sabrina, I hope that replies to your question.
Thank you. Right now, Declan, I don't know whether let me get that question back from Grace.
Yeah, I saw it come up there. Hi, Grace. Thanks for your question. There isn't one simple answer to this. It's not, I couldn't just point to something and say, oh yes, we carried out a number of surveys across X number of people. I think as Tonya and Irina alluded to, it's all driven by, it has all been driven by trying to understand and working with our customer base to fundamentally find out what it is that they want from their accommodation. Only when we took the time to actually engage with them on that kind of personal service level, were we able to determine that this was the trend, that these were the services that, you know, were preventing them from actually looking at serviced accommodation as a longer term option, and that way we were able to highlight those housekeeping, those wraparound additional services, and say, actually, this is not what they need. What they need fundamentally are, you know, that turnkey solution, that super fast Wi-Fi, and just that comfort knowing that when they turn up there, they're going to be able to get straight on with their lives and not be having to deal with any of the sound or the noise that comes with renting a place, you know, whether that be council tax in the UK, whether it be even furnishing a place. It's just headaches that in the modern world consumers just don't need.
Thanks, Declan. And let us know if there are any other further questions there, Grace. Any questions coming off the viewers? Otherwise, if I could perhaps turn back to the panel and just any other comments that you'd like to make on the, ideally on the marketplace, rather than your own brands, what you're seeing and where you believe that the serviced accommodation sector will go, you know, in the months to come. It has come. We are moving so fast, I think, to get over the current crisis, and then the models that are coming out, they're being thrown. We've talked about fragmentation in the past. I don't think we've seen anything yet. I think there's going to be all sorts of fragmentation, and it'd be interesting to see which models even consider themselves to be part of the serviced accommodation sector. But anybody else want to make any comments on what we've discussed so far?
I was just asking the panelists, and I understand in the U.S. we are known to be much more litigious, but has there been any discussion or indication that there may be concerns from either HR perspective for clients and customers, or even the operators or your subscribers managing or the co-living homes, for example, for liability for duty of care during COVID? Just curious. Something.
Yeah, good question. Go for it, Kate.
Is there a question for me?
No, for anyone, I think.
For anyone.
For anybody. Yeah. I mean, I'll make a comment in the meantime, though. I think a lot of operators are relying on accreditation as being something which they can demonstrate that they're safe and you know, showing due diligence. So yeah, that's my comment really. Yeah, over to whomsoever would like to respond.
Yeah, I just think it's to do with processes and procedures. We've all got them in place now due to COVID, you know, the additional cleaning, everyone's the same across the board. And like Richard said, the accreditation is fantastic, but we've just updated T's and C's, and then also just giving guests as much information, especially if they're traveling from a different country that might have different rules up front. So we've amended confirmations and customer communications, pre-arrival instructions, just to make sure they're aware of masks, you know, the hand sanitizer stations, but also, you know, just in general, we're in a UK lockdown right now that you cannot visit a bar or a restaurant, etc. So I just think a lot of it is to do with communication.
Absolutely.
as well.
Yeah. Crucial that. And whilst talking about communication, we'll come on to you, Cherry. Communication also then between operators and agents, as well as with the clients themselves, I think. Cherry, yes, please.
Yeah, I was just going to make one last point. I think what we see both from the B2C and also from our B2B clients, so the TMCs, the corporates and the relocation companies, is this flight to value. So like, I think, it's pretty obvious, but pricing is a huge kind of factor. So a lot of, especially people who fit in this digital nomads category, will tend to kind of book based on value, and then like services. So, what Declan mentioned, like having Wi-Fi is crucial, having a desk is crucial, and we also see hotels kind of repurposing for that reason as well, trying to kind of capture that market. But yeah. I definitely think that's going to be a trend going forward, and customers will want more. So like a key differentiator is the service offering.
Yeah, exactly. Often coming back to service, isn't it? Anybody would like to make any comments on that? Yeah.
I agree exactly with the human factor, and discussing with your clients what their needs and wants are in order to accommodate those as well, and creating just a tailored approach to your clients' needs is also important, even with a budget, as people have mentioned. Reducing. I think companies are going to start looking at that as well, as to who's going to be able to venture out, hopefully soon. But just catering the structure and what your clients want, tailoring that approach is super important, as well as the customer service aspect of it.
And coming back to the communication part as well, I've been really impressed through all the lockdowns that have happened, just the level of communication that has happened between operators, agents, even corporates, relocation companies. I think hopefully that's going to continue. I mean, I guess it's a plea to everyone to continue it, because it's really helped the end guest. I think that's the most important for them to be served well and to have that experience. So I think that incredible communication as to what's going on in your world, how can I kind of helping each other has been amazing, and hopefully long may it continue even through after this pandemic.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that's been interesting that you've all mentioned a little bit is that value add, that little extra in delivering, whether it's the upgraded furniture package to include the desk, or improved Wi-Fi performance, or the food packs for quarantine. And so I think we'll see in our models more effort into establishing these partnerships, strategic partnerships and alliances with service providers who specialize in delivering those elements of the customer experience, to keep, again, the overall investment low and the ROI high for companies like yours that will continue to want to grow and be successful. But I think relying on those other segments, those other strategic partnerships, is going to be increasingly important as businesses move forward.
Yeah, and I'd like to think that one of the positives to come out of this crisis has been that communication that we were talking about, mentioned there, has kind of in a strange way increased. We've been watching so many webinars and what have you. I think we've all broadened our knowledge. Certainly I have. And so Mike's asked a question. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Emma, and then Declan, I think it was. Yeah.
Yes. Sorry, I just wanted to add the point that what has been apparent, and it'd be interesting to get Tanya's opinion as well, that certainly here in the UK, traditional companies and business that used to travel aren't necessarily. So maybe once upon a time, all of our businesses are doing incredibly well, and maybe lower rated business types, things maybe like government business, etc., particularly maybe the NHS type business, maybe didn't command the kind of like rates or the requirements that some of our properties, etc., was experiencing. But the pandemic has kind of like reached out to those industries that were traveling, etc. And it's certainly for me, and in the sector with the short stay to the really short stay to the midterm stay, it's made us kind of like look at those industries where we've supported them now. So in particular, things like the NHS, and then actually, we're looking for the recovery process, etc., that it's important that we don't suddenly sit there and forget those segments that have been really key to some of us in surviving this period at the moment, and that we continue to support them and just, maybe recognise that actually when times get tough, there are quite resilient industries out there. They may not always bring us, the length of stay maybe that I want at the rates that I might want, but there are times like now in particular where it can sometimes be the only business that's out there, and it does give a little bit of that corporate responsibility going back to people.
I do agree. I think our business is not a what have you done for me lately business. It's what can I continue to do for you over time. And so maintaining those relationships, even if they're not producing for you now, would be key to, you know, the longevity, the sustainability of businesses going forward, and a mistake to ignore. So great that you're continuing to go after those segments. It's important to continue those conversations.
Declan, did you want to add something there?
Yeah. I think just in response to the comment there that's on the screen from Mike, I think what we will continue to see as trends, and bringing it back to the question that you asked, Richard, about the change in service accommodation models, is that you will see, I believe, that those operators, providers who are able to offer different types of brands for different types of travelers' requirements are the ones that will survive coming out the back of this. So rather than describing it as a dash for cash to survive, I would say that, you know, any business that isn't diverse, has its risk spread, it is likely not to be able to come out of these trying times successfully. So yeah, I think what we will see is a continuation of operators who are able to offer the right brand at the right price and the right product at the right time are the ones that will survive. And if you are still just trying to push square pegs in round holes, it isn't going to work anymore.
Thanks, Declan. We've just hit 3 o'clock, and I don't know whether anyone on the panel needs to leave at this stage. But if you do, then please, you know, by all means, we do so. Can continue the discussion if people on the panel would like to for a little while. Is there anything that anybody who is about to leave would like to add? No, then that's okay. One of the webinars that I was watching recently kind of highlighted, in the UK certainly, we don't have, as far as I'm aware at least, but shoot me down if I'm wrong, we don't have like accommodation for families to travel. And maybe families will be traveling together more in the future, but we don't really have products like I think there are in the States, where families are easily relocated is what I'm thinking of, and therefore there will be a tendency to move to the Airbnb kind of offerings. I don't know, but just throwing that one in. Yeah, over to the panel, please. If there's anything else that you'd like to add regarding this conversation.
So, Richard, I'm interested to hear what your definition maybe then of a family environment is, because I'm sure all of us can accommodate either a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom kind of perspective if families need to do that perspective.
Yeah,
I'm not quite sure maybe in a co-living perspective. That'll be interesting for me to hear that side, but certainly Irina and I think maybe Cherry's dropped off now.
Possibly.
Are they getting the request certainly for families? You know, from my experience on other more traditional service department providers I've worked for, there was a requirement for families, you know, for 2 or 3 children moving with them, etc.
I think just one thing, if I could say here, I think the difference is, and Richard is right, it's probably not that multi-family environment in the sense that, you know, buildings in the US are big residential buildings. They're kind of like community in themselves, where, you know, they've got a dog park, they've like a bark park, what they call it. They've got a, you know, children's playground, a bit like the Middle East as well. So it's probably true that we don't have that, but in the size, yes, we do. Do we have the community? Probably not, but I'm guessing the UK is going to head there at some stage in the future, in a few years' time.
Yeah,
probably co-living is the way to get there.
Right. Yeah, I think that was it really. I was thinking in terms of that those kind of multi-family setups in the States.
We definitely see that.
Go ahead, Michelle.
We see more development multifamily, mixed residential kinds of communities that are more pedestrian centric, that include the living space that's close to the pharmacy. That'll be increasingly important, to the doctor, to the veterinarian, to the dog park, etc., and to a school. And who knows what will happen relative to the schooling scenarios, if those will become more distributed and continue to be virtual or hybrid types of scenarios in the United States. But I imagine there'll be some additional changes that we'll see. We'll certainly see some pop-up educational services and new businesses arising out of the COVID to augment educational services where parents and families feel like students aren't getting what they can out of our public systems because of the limitations to COVID. So I can imagine that those being integrated into these living communities might be something we see going forward. So many different kinds of new businesses will arise from this challenge. It would be interesting to see. But we are also limited, as with the rest of the panelists. It's difficult to get anything beyond a 3-bedroom, and 3 bedrooms are very limited in most inventory. You'd have to go to private home rentals typically for larger families with pets.
Right, which is another thing, isn't it? An increase demand for pet-friendly accommodation.
Yeah, and I think we've done that much better than we have in the States.
Really?
Europe.
Yeah. Well, we've always been known for shopkeepers and dog owners, I think. I don't know. But yeah. Michelle, did you want to say something at that?
Yeah, I was just going to, make a comment. I don't know if there was a webinar even yesterday that I watched about the uptick in requests for families relocating together because of the work from home experience, I think, and, children, even teaching your children from home virtually these days. We do go up to 3 bedrooms and, but 3 bedrooms are it's a slim margin of our core inventory. But as far as, the families relocating, again, you have those private rentals coming in. I think a lot of people, sometimes people get the lump sums where they use that and they go off and, they find the Airbnbs or the private rentals. As far as security concerns, I think a service provider, like ourselves and many others, you have that, you're capable of giving 24/7 customer service, whereas, sometimes it might be a little bit difficult with those private rentals. But we've seen an uptick in the family requests as well, just because people are working from home and they're going wherever they're going together.
That's really interesting, and you hit on something there, Michelle, and that was the lump sum piece. I think that's something we all have to pay attention to, at least here in the States. Like I mentioned the question earlier about being litigious and employers being held accountable for employees that have to travel. So we probably will see more instances where employers are giving a stipend to a traveler and saying, you make your own arrangements. So then the liability is on them to do diligence in identifying what's good for them, their family, their travel needs, and it kind of removes them, extracts them from liability. I imagine we'll probably see more of that, at least here in the States. I'm curious what the rest of the panelists think.
I know certainly, without naming names, there's some kind of like corporate companies that certainly do that on their short-term hotel stays, where they get given an allocation budget and they go, here's a list of providers, etc. Your choice where you book, you get given $200 or £200, etc. You spend it however you want to. If you want to go find somewhere for $100, you take the responsibility of booking the $100, and then they take the $100 back themselves for all the other things on top of it all. So it's interesting. The hotel world is doing a little bit of that, and I'm sure it will evolve into the longer stay market as well.
You mentioned there about the hotel world, and I'm quite interested because I watched a webinar on hotels the other day, and it seemed that there was a consensus that the hotel models, I know there are various models, but would generally return to what they were. So rooms, restaurants, bars. Do you have, or does anybody have a view on that as to whether the actual hotel model will have changed because of what we're seeing in the change in demand in our sector?
So, I mean, I'm happy to comment on the hotel sector because I'm sitting in one of my other hotels today. I can only comment on the UK. So the hotel across the UK, particularly the luxury market, so the kind of like 5-star hotels particularly, A number of those certainly didn't recover or potentially even open after lockdown 1.0. So in the summer, they didn't open. And there's a number of them that haven't even reopened when we've gone on to lockdown now. Some not potentially looking to open again until at least March or April time, when there's expectations that confidence in the consumers, etc., will travel, and obviously the vaccine notifications as well. A number of the hotel sectors, they're reliant on the meetings and events business as well, which has been significantly impacted. So hotels, even when they have meeting requirements, etc., even all of that stuff is having to change in social distancing. So there's certainly a shift. There's an expectation, and everybody is certainly looking at what can we do differently. So even to the point, I think it was maybe Michelle that brought on that how hotels themselves are becoming like workstations, you know, so their rooms are being adapted, so they're actually putting desks and chairs in there that makes it more viable for somebody to want to maybe stay there longer, to be able to make that their office, etc. as well. So there's even a shift in the traditional hotel kind of like background to we're adopting models from the long stay and the short stay, etc.
And it was interesting.
Yes.
I had a chat with a supplier of hotels, purely hotels in Dubai, and they said that they're offering long stay packages for their hotels. So they're doing hotels for longer stays, and obviously they won't have laundry facilities, but they're offering laundry services included. They're offering meals, so whether they want a breakfast and a dinner or a lunch and a dinner or whatever that is. So just to be able to attract some of that long stay into their hotels, which are obviously empty with transients. So that was interesting, I thought.
From my point of view, quickly, I'd like to say that I haven't seen one yet happening here in the UK, but United States and Spain and Germany, actually, and Holland and Netherlands, they've already, yeah, I'm just starting to think now. I remember everything, all my ambassador telling me things and everything with it. There's been already quite a few hotels switching straight into co-living and started to work with co-living operators to have a bit of a mix or hybrid, let's say, in between the two. And so focusing on longer term, and exactly as you were saying before, having, you know, rooms and kitchens and communal areas kind of like redesigned and repurposed in a sort of way for longer staying and for work and leave, you know, solution for both. And very quickly, sorry if you don't mind me, before I'm going to have to leave in a minute, I'd like to reply to Sabrina again, where Sabrina, she said families with young kids will continue to want to be close to the schools, and she doubts they will move. I think moving forward, there's going to be a few schools that might be going digital, or they will give the possibility to parents to actually homeschool with the support of digital. And I think some of the digital nomad parents and remote workers will want to move around. So I do think we will see more families moving around.
Yeah, just on that point as well is kind of families close to schools, but also families living, we've seen it in London, living in London so that the parents can also commute to big city offices. I feel like that's going to have a massive shift when these offices also go more digital and they might only need to be in a couple of days a week. I feel like they will then move out, you know, maybe for a more country life for their family or something like that. We've definitely seen it in our long lets in London. We have people who have been told they're not going back to the office until July 2021. So why pay the high London rents when you can live in Yorkshire and, you know, in the country? And I get it. So I think, again, it's all down to like everyone's situation is different at the moment, you know, both personally, professionally, work-wise, what people like, what people don't like. And it's just kind of knowing your product and knowing what demographics are out there and knowing what they want and just being able to adapt to that. I don't think there's a one size fits all for any product or client. Yeah,
indeed. Yeah, I was also going to mention that, yeah, about the a trend it would seem to the demand outside of the city centres. Would anybody?
Richard, just on that point, just continuing that point, I am going to have to go in a moment. But yeah, there was an interesting part of the Freakonomics podcast about the death of the city, and obviously the city isn't going to die; it never will. But there is definitely going to be a change in people shifting away from the cities because they just don't need to be there anymore, and that is exactly what Joe was talking about. I don't think the city will die. I don't think it ever will, but there is obviously going to be some change, and the serviced accommodation industry needs to be there to be able to actually capture that, whatever that may be. So unfortunately I'm going to have to go. So thank you very much for this. Shameless plug, I know, but we're actually running an introductory event next week. I know my colleague Mark will put something in the comments about that if anybody would like to jump on that. So yeah, sorry about the shameless plug.
And we'll go for anyone else who wants to be as shameless as you in a minute. But will it be running on YouTube or what? I know it's you register on Eventbrite, don't you?
Yeah, it's probably going to be on Zoom.
Oh, on Zoom. Okay, right, good. Okay, thanks, Declan. Thanks for your involvement here. Thank you.
Thanks again. Cheers.
No, cool. So probably moving towards wrapping things up a little bit. But would anybody any other comments? Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, me again. Before I'm really leaving, I really like what you said, Joe. And I live in London myself. It doesn't matter. Like I can't leave it. It's like for me, it's my favorite place to be. So I just want to stay here. But I think a lot of people will move out, but they will come back. They will. And they will come back, not just because of the office, but because some people, same as me, I don't need to live in London. I could live anywhere. I choose to live in London because I love it. And I think the problem is that, the way the city has changed. It's not as busy anymore. We don't have bars and all of whatever made London and whatever made a lot of different cities. New York is the same. My friends live there. Paris is the same. And I think the trend of people wanting to move out, I don't think it will last that long, personally. I think, if you like the city, some people are in the city, not just because of it's easier for them to commute, but they love that. Just like people outside of the city are very different and, they will come back. But I really don't think this is the end of cities at all. I think that we see an insurge, very different. I have two goddaughters and they're already talking to me about when they're after uni, they want to come to London and they want to do the whole corporate and living here and doing everything. So I think in not very many years, we will see people coming back again. A lot of them. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Also live in London. Same view. I feel like it's going to be a different demographic that comes back there.
Totally.
It is going to be those people who are looking, like you say, for the city life. And it may be because we at the moment know that even, normal rentals are cheap. So even during kind of these times, they may be able to afford a year's rent now, and they'll get excited about having it. Just fingers crossed everything, like you say, can open. I miss the food market so much. There used to be one just here in Hammersmith. Oh, just different food every day from all over the world. So yeah, absolutely agree. I think it's going to definitely shift though in the demographic and who's coming in and who moves back out. But yeah, Mike, I also love Yorkshire, by the way. That's why it came to mind.
Being somebody that doesn't live in London, I live about an hour and a half away. Those that do move out, they will soon miss Uber, Deliveroo, Just Eat, all of that stuff. My daughter thinks it's weird that we don't have that out there, and she loves it when she comes to London.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because actually I think a lot of them, a lot of city people that move into the countryside will actually bring a lot of that with them because they will be like, how is it possible that that's not here? And so the service provider will actually push and get there as well. As obviously it's not the same because, in here you tap to 10 million people. And if you move to a smaller town in Yorkshire or any other county, you don't have that demographic, so you can't offer the same. So it will be slightly different. But I definitely think that that the younger generation will come back and they will have kids again in here, and people will come back.
because of this demand from, I live on the outskirts of Bristol, so we've only just got Deliveroo. Like, I was so happy when I got it. And I think because all of these are coming into the suburbs, there's going to be a demand for the suburbs. So I think the service providers are going to also end up coming into the suburbs as well.
Totally. I mean, the digital nomads and the remote workers and the city movers are the one that normally bring in technology, because it's exactly what you said. You just think like, if you think about something like Uber, for example, but even just Airbnb, I was the first person in my small village in Italy, in my parents' small village, to provide, a solution which is Airbnb. And it's only a small village in northern Italy. And people were telling my parents, your daughter is crazy. She thinks this is London. She's mental. And that was 5 years ago. So I'm not talking about like 25 years ago. I didn't reinvent any wheel. And now there is about 12 different ones. And the new mayor, who is a young person and used to go to school with me, etc., said to me, I really would like you to help me to incentivize that more, because we've got a lot to offer. There's a lot of empty properties, so maybe we can push that more. And it's fantastic. So I think sometimes we are also the one pushing that, right? People were like, yeah, I love having Uber when I am in central London. Why can I not have it when I am, I don't know, in this place? And so Uber got there, and everything, kind of like moves like that. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's quite thrilling, isn't it? There was a big move to put life back into the city centres like Manchester, Liverpool, all those kind of areas, and knock down the warehouses or turn them into apartments. I wonder if they should have left them as warehouses. It's it's a sad irony there, isn't there? But whatever will happen with accents, I don't know, because they talk about the people moving out of Liverpool, spreading the Liverpool accent across Merseyside. Goodness knows how we'll all be talking in the future. I'm just trying to run through some of these final comments, really. But thank you, everybody, for staying with us. Thanks, Kate. I can see you're going there. Thank you to everybody viewing. Obviously, thank you to the panel for your very valued time and input. I'm trying to do two things at once, and it's true, fellas can't multitask.
Thank you for the mind share.
No, it's great pleasure. I mean, does anybody want to have any closing kind of comments on what we were discussing? Anything else that you might not have mentioned? Let me just get back to the video. Yeah, go for it.
Perfect. So this is for our new co-working space. Obviously, it is open to anyone. We are going to do it by desk for the day, by desk for the month, or one of our what we call locked rooms, which is an area between 5 and 35 desks. Anything larger, more than happy to chat to anyone about. But it is called Mission Works. So if you go on the Lamington Group website and just pop in Mission Works into there, you'll find all of the information and all of the photos and everything. It's actually an old church, so it's a very beautiful building. We're going to have some really cool breakout spaces, like a floating meditation working area, which is just full of beanbags and plants and just a really cool area. And then it'll have everything else. So there's showers, there's bike storage, and anything that you would want from a really cool co-working space. We're doing opening introductory offers. So yeah, if anyone wants to inquire, even if it's just for a day, if you're in London for a meeting and need somewhere for a couple of hours to just kind of rest up, then do let me know. Or if anyone's offices are kind of downsizing or closing, you're looking to put everyone to work from home, but you do want meeting space, etc., then do let me know. We've got a diverse range of offerings. So my email is j.webb, so that's j.webb@lamingtongroup.com. Thanks.
Fabulous. Thanks, Joe. Tonya, would you like to do a shameless plug?
Oh, I just wanted to thank everyone for their participation and the opportunity to be part of the conversation today. I always learn a lot about our global industry, and appreciate you, Richard, for arranging that. I know you'll share with us how this will be available after we conclude today, as far as the recording. And I would just say I'm going to continue to watch the as a destination consultant and professional realtor here in the United States, but welcome partnering with anyone who's looking for assistance in bringing their travelers here to the U.S. who might be needing services of my nature. I'm glad to assist and glad to have a conversation with you about that partnership.
Thanks, Tonya. Would you like to repeat the name of your company?
Next Adventure Home Solutions, because every transition should be your next great adventure.
Hey, you've even got a slogan. Oh, great. Thanks very much, Tonya.
Thank you.
Emma, would you like a shameless plug?
I'll always take a shameless plug. So the Fellows House in Cambridge is due to open spring next year. It will be part of Curio Collection by Hilton, but it will be 163 bedroom hotel with a collection of 1-bedrooms, studios and duplexes. And next door to that will be a separate entity of 3-bedroom townhouses. So watch this space, and thank you for the opportunity, Richard, and lovely to see everybody on the panel, some new connections, and lovely to see everybody that's joined on as well, some friendly faces that I've seen there as well.
Thanks, Emma. Michelle, over to you.
I'll do a quick one, but thank you so much for the opportunity, Richard. And shameless plugs are always welcome, right? So if you're ever looking for a furnished apartment, reach out to me at Churchill Living. I would be happy to help. But this was a great opportunity, and I'm very thankful, Richard.
No, thank you for your time and for joining us. Thanks, Michelle. Irina, over to you.
Well, leaving best for last then.
Exactly.
Thank you so much. Opportunity. It was great to see everyone, see some, like Emma said, some friendly faces that I hadn't seen in a long time thanks to COVID. So reach out to me. I'm based in the UK. As I said, I'm responsible for our EMEA region, but we do have 28 other offices in the US, and more than happy to assist with any global housing.
Corporate housing, that's isn't it? Right, now I'm going to try to play the outro video. By all means, feel at liberty to then leave the stage. In the past, otherwise you'll end up just being there at the end of the video as a startled face, as startled as I was when I finished my videos. So thank you very much indeed to everyone on the panel for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll see you soon.
Thank you.